Welcome, everyone, to another episode. I am your host, Marla Martenson, and I have a very exciting guest today. I'm so almost speechless having this person on my show. So this is Buck Angel. And hey, Buck, introduce
Hey,
yourself.
first off, thanks, Marla. I super appreciate you reaching out to me. So I'm a I'm a transsexual man. So I was born I'm biologically female. It's why am I even having a problem saying that? It's because everything's so insane. So I'm a biological female who transitioned to live my life as a male 30 years ago. I acknowledge my biology. I wouldn't say I'm an activist because that word's been hijacked. So I feel like more of an advocate and somebody who, speaks out on things I don't see as a positive thing. I also work in the sex industry, the adult entertainment, as well as creating products. I would say I'm more in the sexual wellness aspect of it at this point, by
Right,
creating
because you used
products
to
and
be in the porn
yes, I
arena.
did.
Yeah.
I sure did. And, that's a stigma for sure. And that really, people just, oh, well, you're a porn star. No, I'm not. No,
Right.
I'm not. I did porn a long time ago. It's done. I do create sex products, but I create them, to connect. You're sort of in that space. So,
Adults,
yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I'm
Nope, that's right.
a matchmaker, and I match people for long-term relationship and marriage. And
Excellent.
the reason I wanted to have this conversation is, as I was talking before I pressed record, is that the craziness, and I want to talk a little bit about your story too, because
Right.
it feels like the world's gone nuts, kind of insane.
Nuts.
And I wonder sometimes, Buck, if it's just because I don't even watch TV anymore. I watch YouTube. I love YouTube. And so once you look at certain videos, the other ones are all suggested. And I'm like, well, maybe I'm just saturated with this and it's not a big of a problem as it is. But I think it is. And some people might not even know about it, where we're this gender, this transgender, these pronouns and identifying as, and all of this stuff. So people, they just decide, well, I feel like, I feel like a man. And so but let's talk about first, before we get into that, I would love people to hear about, who aren't familiar with you. 30 years ago, it was quite a different criteria. And who were you that you felt that you had to do this for yourself?
Well, I grew up in the 60s and I'm 60 years old. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. And, back in the day, you could just be a gender nonconforming kid. No one cared, right? I had long hair. I was a girl, but I was a skateboarder. I hung out with the boys. I felt like a boy. We called that a tomboy. It's completely normal childhood. I don't want anyone thinking I had some weird, no way. My parents were super cool. And I'm so glad I grew up in the 70s. It was just amazing. I had an awesome childhood. Things didn't really start to develop and feel weird for me until I started getting to be a little older, like 15 or 16, when I really started being attracted to girls and noticing my attraction to girls. The boy feeling like a boy thing was it was kind of celebrated on some level, tomboys. And I was very athletic and I was very that kid, you know what I mean? But it was the attraction to girls that kind of threw me off. And even though deep down inside, I was like, well, I'm a guy who's attracted to girls, but you couldn't say that. People would think you were totally insane. And, but then lesbians were not acknowledged as well, being in sports. I was kind of a high ranking athlete as a girl, and we were told by our coach not to ever say, if any of us are lesbians, don't ever say it. Like, we were actually told that. Like, it was so insane. But that being said, as I move forward in my life, and I live part of my life as a gay woman, and I just never felt comfortable in that space. I tried it on. I really tried to live there. And the reason I'm saying all this is because today it's so different. And I do think living sort of in a space that's uncomfortable is really important, because this is not reversible. What you see here today, I could never go back to being like you. And so that's why it's very important that we understand this is not just putting a hat on or just changing your pronouns, or, you know what I mean? It's when you get into the medicalization of it, it is hardcore, and it's not something that we should take so lightly that we are today.
And when you were doing it, they were required a lot of therapy, right?
That's right. As I moved forward and I found out that I could actually become this guy, though I completely acknowledge my biology. I know I'm not a man. I'm a transsexual man, but I live as a man. It's very important this language sort of gets out there. I'm going against this new narrative that biology is a social construct. That's just ridiculous. If it wasn't for my biology, I would not be a transsexual.
Yeah.
So yeah, moving forward, I actually found doctors who were willing to work with me who had never done it before. So one of them called me a guinea pig. I had to go through 2 years of intensive therapy, get a letter from my therapist, take it to the doctor. It was a system I call a safekeeping. That today they call it gatekeeping, right? Like, as if it's negative. No, it is 100. That is why I am this guy and why people like you reach out to me. I'm very solid in my trans. People still call me she because they want to be mean, right? But it doesn't hurt me. Because I get it. I know why people do things like that. You know, I'm very solid in who and what I am.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And also, so now I mean, what I'm seeing is the detransitioning.
That's right.
I watch a lot of these videos, and somebody asked me the other day, why do you watch this stuff? Like, you're sick. Why are you watching this? You know, and it's like I watch a lot of the Scientology stuff too, the people who left, or the cult stuff. It's fascinating to me.
Yep.
Humans are fascinating, and then what's going on. So when I'm seeing these young people that are trying to reverse this, and they say that they were able to go to a doctor and get within that day a prescription for testosterone or for estrogen, and start so talk a little, which is frightening because they don't know at the time. And then talk a little bit about, as somebody who is on testosterone.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Implications here with this?
Yes. A 20-minute therapy session is unbelievable, that we're all just like, okay, you can't do anything in 20 minutes. You can barely eat a hamburger in 20 minutes. Like, what are you talking about? You know, you're going to change someone. And shame on these, it makes me so mad. Shame on these therapists who are so wingnutty and so woke. They've lost their way. So they're called affirmation therapists, right? And any parent who's listening to me right now, never, ever, ever take your child to an affirmation therapist. You won't get anything done. They'll just affirm your child's delusion and I'm not saying trans is a delusion, but these kids are going through so much insanity. You cannot change your sex. I did not change my sex. What I did is I aligned myself with my brain and says, okay, now the world sees me as a dude. That's all I want you to do, is see me as a dude. I never get misgendered. Never. So my point being is, you cannot assess anybody, I don't care what it is, in 20 minutes. Yet we're letting trans people, especially young people, be assessed in 20 minutes, get a stamp of approval. Planned Parenthood, I'm very angry at them. I used to support them a lot, but they jumped on this gender nonsense. And to affirm a child, especially a 16-year-old, and say, oh yeah, you're right, you know who you are. Since when did we ever say 16-year-olds know who they are?
No,
ever. We never said that.
Thinking back to when I was 16, I'm like, no, I would fickle. I like this.
That's right.
I like this. I want to do this. I don't know.
That's right. I mean, well, my point is going to be this: we're doing a disservice to these young people. So now these young people are transitioning when they think their whole life is going to change. You're first off giving them a whole new set of problems. Okay, you're not even addressing the problems they're dealing with. A lot of these kids have BPD or anxiety or autism. I mean, I could go sexual trauma. We're not even addressing sexual trauma, and you have to address trauma. So you have to address here before you address here, right? I addressed this. I took care of my engine before I painted my car. And like, that's what you're supposed to do with any logical thing. They're not addressing what's going on in the engine. The engine is not running properly.
And there are doctors willing and doing removing teenage women's breasts, and so I've seen many say, I wish I had my breast back. I wish I didn't.
That's my point. That's my point. Now, moving forward, who's going to be responsible for that, right? Because, doctors are slick and they have consent forms, right? So you knew what you were doing. Oh, really? No, this child did not know what they were doing. Shame on you as a doctor. Do no harm, I guess, doesn't hang on your door, does it, doctor? So I personally want to hold a lot of these doctors and therapists responsible, because it's going to come. Yes. They're already suing. Detransitioners are already starting lawsuits.
Yeah, there's this one gal, I can't remember her name, a brunette.
Chloe Cole.
Yes, who is really out there with that.
That's right.
And then she talks about the hormones, and the puberty blockers, which the body needs to go through puberty.
My God, I went through puberty. Do I look like a girl? And so here's also what I want to say. If you notice, the majority of the voices coming from this fight are trans women, right?
Yes.
So it's not really even about trans guys. So that should say something to you right there. And number two, the majority of people who are going on puberty blockers and who are transitioning are young girls.
Yes.
Yet trans women have their hand. Trans women are biological males. They never went through female puberty. They don't understand girls that way. So I get very mad when trans women are like, puberty block. No, step down, my friend. You don't get to have this conversation. These are young girls. I do, because I was a young girl and I was somebody struggling. So I personally don't think trans women can get to be in this conversation like that, because if that was the case, why is it mostly young girls transitioning and not young boys? What?
Yeah, why? Do you have a theory?
Oh, sure I do. I mean, girls deal with more things than boys do, I think, on some level, right? And now we have the internet. Remember, I'm 60. I didn't have any of that when I transitioned.
Same age as you are. Yeah.
Yep. And we didn't have any of this. Thank God. I really do think it's dangerous. And I do believe in social contagion. I do. I think,
yes.
They're peer pressure.
They're like, what's wrong with me? I feel awkward.
Right.
And they're looking at the groups and whatever, Reddit or TikTok or wherever they go and see, oh, that's what's wrong. Oh, I need to join this group.
There you go. And so I also want you to understand, I'm a transsexual. Okay. So there's a big difference here between transsexual, transgender. So transsexual, somebody like myself who goes through a system, I have a mental disorder, which I completely acknowledge my mental disorder. If anyone says that I don't, or that trans people don't, they're lying. This is a mental disorder space. And so by getting the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which is in the brain, which is a disorder, and it's not a big deal. It's not shameful to have that. The diagnosis is important. I can find out what's wrong with me and I can move forward. And so we as transsexuals do what we call move into the binary. So we go from living as a female to living as a male, or vice versa. We don't change our sex. We just sort of present to the world this way, but we have a diagnosis, we go through a medical space, and we want to belong in the world, right? We don't want to stand out as trans people. Transgender is now it's become an identity choice, right? So kids are like, I'm trans, and I'm thinking, we never said that. We always said, I'm a boy, or I'm a girl, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, but now they're literally using this trans so that's where I'm like, okay, I see what's happening now. You all think it's just a choice. I didn't choose this, and nor do I want it when I have it.
The trans, a lot of them are like, they've got beards, or they're just in a dress and lipstick and just like, I'm trans. It's kind of just a made up word. It's not it. And then they can go back. They're not on hormones and stuff, so they can go back after playing that game, or if they feel, but once I see even the voice with that, the Chloe, her voice is never going to go.
Never
sounds like man.
Never. She's always going to sound that way. It thickens your testosterone, thickens your vocal cords, amongst other things that are irreversible. This idea that they keep putting out, it's reversible. So here's what I really want to say about that. It really makes me mad, because they're lying. So if you were solid, right? I'm sitting here telling you everything about myself, that I have nothing to hide from you. I don't need to hide from you, my biology or any of the other stuff. So why are they lying about it? So to me, when people lie about something, it means they're hiding something. Because it's completely lies when it says it's reversible. None of what you put, any medication, there's always going to be a side effect of a medication, let alone blocking puberty. You don't even need to be a scientist or a biologist to understand how insanely deranged that is, to block puberty.
Dangerous. And now, and we'll get into, I think, your ideas are why this is all the rage now. I mean, I'm up here in Washington State, and we've got that, we were talking about that Senate Bill 5599, and it says here, it just passed, allows shelters to keep runaway juveniles from their parents, to keep them to get an abortion and or gender surgeries. The Washington House has passed a bill allowing shelters to keep the runaway juveniles from their parents, that includes removing a girl's breasts or uterus.
Wow.
That's what it says here, and that I Googled, and well, that would be the surgeries, right? And parents don't know. They imagine you find your kid, they ran away, and then they're hacked up. I mean,
Well, people are using this because here we all know there's bad parents out there, but there are more good parents than bad parents. That's like making a blanket statement that
right.
if you don't transition your kid, you're a bad parent. No, you're not. You're a great parent. By the way, it means you care about your kid, because I personally don't want any of these kids to be trans. I would prefer to have them grow out of it and move forward. Why would I want anyone to be? And not that this isn't great for me, but you have to understand I have to live in this forever. And they don't understand that. They don't understand the long term of this situation at 16 years old.
And
Nobody.
at 60, you still have to take testosterone regularly. How often do you have to take that?
I have to inject testosterone once a week
Once
for
a
the
week,
rest of
and
my
this
life.
is life, 30 years, and it
30 years.
can have some. What kind of implications can that have that you try to manage?
So you know what's so interesting is now they're just throwing the testosterone to these young girls, like as if it's just candy, not understanding the side effects, because we haven't even done long-term research. So that's the other thing.
Yeah.
They haven't even done long-term research on putting testosterone in a female-bodied person. Come on, people. That's why it's upsetting to me. They're just pretending like, oh, I had once thing that majorly happened to me called vaginal atrophy, and I'm the first recorded case of that. And I almost actually died. I became septic from it because it fused my uterus and my cervix together. And then I know it's so insane. The doctor, when he was operating, he was like, because doctors love stuff like that.
Yeah,
he was like, "Oh, dude, I've never seen anything." He goes, "My whole uterus and everything was just twisted and insane. He'd never seen anything like it." And so he said, if I didn't come in, because I got really sick, and then he said, if I didn't come in that sooner, I would have been dead, because it popped and I became septic.
Because you're very open about that, you didn't have the bottom surgery.
I did not have bottom surgery. Yeah.
You left that as a woman, and your inner.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a hysterectomy or anything like
Nope.
that. So you have those things, but the testosterone just completely atrophied.
Destroyed everything down there. And, I'm here waving the flag to the world about, okay, I and not that I don't want anybody to transition. Of course I do. I want people to transition. It's amazing if it's what you need. But I'm flying this flag like, hey, you can get atrophy, and no one's listening to me. Nobody. And then guys are writing me constantly, dude, I have these cramps that you talked about. I'm like, you have atrophy.
They
Go
think
to your
you're
doctor.
having the period. Some of
Yes, that's right. It feels like gnarly period cramps.
Yeah. So the only reason I'm talking about this is well, it's a fascinating thing. It's a scary thing, because it's the children, and that's why you're speaking out. That's why you became, because you used to be, not so long ago, right? You were for, transition and stuff, until you saw it happening to children who
that's right.
may regret this and the heavy implications of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, of course. I would be remiss, and I would not be an honest transsexual if I didn't say, hey, wait a minute, we're doing 60. We never transitioned 16-year-olds back in the day. We had to make you go through a system and figure out what's going on. And they actually made you live as a man or live as a woman before you even could transition. They called trying it on, just to make sure, so that way you could turn back. They don't so they actually had an amazing system in place. And then WPATH came along, and WPATH is the World Psychiatric Association of Transgender Health, I think it is. And they're crazy. They're wingnuts. They've literally gone off the deep end, like having eunuchs. Now eunuchs are part of I'm like, what? Right. Eunuch is, and then they're adding insane things. And I think they've just gone insane. And so, they're the World Professional Organization. Like, give me a break. You're not doing us any good. And they're the ones who took out all the gatekeeping, and anyone can be trans, is what they say. And you don't need gender dysphoria to be trans.
Yeah, that's and then I think it's going all around the world, right? It's not just the United States.
It's the World Association.
I mean, and as far as people doing this, and they're
everywhere, because they basically just open the gate. They open the gate. That's why you see dudes with beards and mustaches and not even trying to look like a woman saying they're a woman, because they can't. That's right.
And we just, I think about why all of a sudden, and I know we have the internet, so we see it, but what's interesting is people talk about, we all want to take selfies or be on camera. they're coming on just to say my pronouns are this and I'm this and why are they announcing it on 2 million people? Like, that's why I'm like, well, okay, great, that's fine, anybody can do anything, look like anything, it's cool. Most people really don't care, but
That's right.
pushing, it's like going on and really going, telling everybody
Well,
about it.
on some level, it's an agenda, and it's like it's this thing. It's a very much of an entitled space. You can't expect everybody to like or accept how you are, and how dare you force people to do your pronoun when you look like a dude, but you say you're a girl. Okay, like what people know, humans. If you understand, humans see things. That's why it was important for me. Prior to my transition, I was a very masculine girl, but I was still a woman, and I was still, people could tell. So they still called me she. And I remember I would get so mad. And then I figured out, well, of course, I look like a girl, and I try to make myself look as masculine as possible. So I have firsthand experience with that. And I understand why people don't recognize somebody's pronouns. And then if you say, excuse me, my pronoun, like it's if my pronoun was she. Nobody would ever call me she unless they were trying to be hurtful. But that being said, could you imagine if I go, hey, wait a minute, don't assume my pronoun.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what? Like, these people are not doing a service to our community. They have actually hijacked our community. They're not trans people. They have an agenda and an ideology on some level.
And of course, there's a lot of money to be made here. Let's put that on the table there.
Let's put that. That's right.
Surgeries and lifetime medicalization.
That's right.
And unfortunately, what did your parents think? I mean, family wise and stuff, how did they take it?
Well, first off, I have awesome parents. So, I struggled a lot early on, and I became a hardcore drug addict, and, I became homeless, and my parents eventually just dropped the ball. They were like, get out of here. I mean, they basically stopped calling us. We don't want anything. I don't blame them. They used to call that tough love, which I think is a very important thing. So I ended up really just wandering around. I'm surprised I'm alive, smoking crack, prostituting. I mean, I was a mess. And then I found sobriety. And with sobriety, sort of my brain sort of got back to normal on some of that's when I started to transition. In my first year of transition, and I think it was about maybe 5 years of sobriety or something, I called my parents, and my mom answered the phone, and I remember she was like, hello. And I was like, hi, Mom. She's like, who is this? Because I hadn't spoken to them in years. And I said, it's me. And then she said, oh my God, we thought we lost you. My parents actually thought they would never hear from me again. And so with that, she says, what's wrong with your voice? And I said, well, I'm calling you to make amends. I'm also calling you to let you know that I'm having a sex change, what we used to call it back in the day. And there was silence on the phone.
Like, wow,
and then my mom,
for a loop. Plot twist there.
Totally. But then my mom, she was just like, well, you know what? If that's what's going to make you happy, we love you. And, that is, I mean, that story always sort of brings tears to my eyes because, that's parents, right? They didn't want to see me dead, and they don't want to see me gone. They want to see me happy. And they said, if this is what's going to make you happy, then we're happy. And then that started my reconnection to my parents. Today, I'm so close to my parents. I mean, they're in their 80s now. So I'm super close. We have an amazing relationship. I just am so blessed on so many levels that
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister and a younger sister. Both of them are so great with me. My whole family is. I have no, I struggled. So I think they saw the struggle that I was dealing with back in the day, and everybody wrote me off on, I didn't graduate high school. I just was one of those lost kids. And but now they see me as, an entrepreneur. I have, a great business. I'm just doing really great in the world, and I'm very focused.
And you have a child and a wife,
and I have a wife, and I have a child, and I'm a normal on some level. I'm just this normal guy. Totally.
I just love, you're so joyful, you're so positive, you're so caring. I just think you're an amazing person.
Thank you.
Taking a lot of heat.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's only heat. It doesn't mean anything.
I admire that because I know, like Blair White, for example, gets death threats, and
I know. So do I.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
you do. So
Of
I mean,
course, I don't care. I don't even talk about it because I don't want to give those people
no, we
any
don't want to give it,
power.
but
You know, it happens
that's a
totally.
scary. A lot of people wouldn't be willing to put themselves in that position,
But
So
you have to understand the reason I'm doing this, like you said earlier, for the children and
yeah,
for women. I
yeah,
will not tolerate bringing kids into this space. I will not tolerate it. I'm one of the oldest trans people out there, right? So that's why I get respect
right,
because I did transition 30 years ago. And as you see, it did do wonders for me. So I don't want people to think that transitioning is not for anybody because that's what's going to happen.
yeah,
It's going to take away what I have of the gift. I do not take this gift lightly, and I don't look at it as I'm entitled to it. I am not entitled to this. It is a gift given to me that I look at as a gift. And I think that's why I have a different attitude than those other new trans people. They act as if they're entitled to this space. No, you're not. You're not entitled to anything unless the universe wants to give it to you.
yeah.
But they have a horrible attitude. And that's why I stand up, because I really want people to see, yeah, this is real. Gender dysphoria is real. And it did make my life better. And if we only have those wing nuts, right? People are going to be like, ew, trans people are disgusting.
And you get a lot of people, young people reaching out to you.
Yeah, a lot
And,
more and more.
and
what are they?
What are they saying? Why are they reaching out to you?
So some reach out to me because they are transitioning and they're dealing with the atrophy pain and their doctor doesn't know what it is, which I'm like, wow, that in itself is insane. They're coming to me for their medical advice. I'm like, ew. So there's that. Number two, that I changed their mind. That they're not going to transition, which is so powerful on so many levels. Yeah. Or they come to me because they are detransitioning and now they're being ostracized from the community, called all kinds of names, which says to me again.
Yes, they all say that. They say they get a lot of heat for if they say it didn't work for me. I'm not happy. I have problems. Right. They don't get support. They get ostracized and angry.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like, that says to me again, because the detransitioners don't affect my transition. In fact, they hurt my heart. And I have compassion for them because I should have never gone down that road. So for me, the detransitioners are the ones who are going to help us get back into a really more sane space, which is so sad to say, but it's the truth. And they're willing to talk to me. I do a lot of interviews with them and they're really willing to have the conversation with me. And every single one that I have, there's so many commonalities between all of them. One could be living in Australia and the other one could be living in, Taiwan. And they have the exact same stories, that they weren't diagnosed properly, that, you know what I mean? They're
there's all, who I love is that shapeshifter, that gal.
Awesome. She's a friend too.
Yeah.
Now he goes by he.
Yeah. Just a warm, caring, honest, open about everything. And
then look at him. He looks like a woman now. And he took his penis off and he's just completely a mess. And
has had a lot of issues with that area down there from colon. Yep.
That's right. That's right. It's messy and it's gnarly. Surgery isn't a joke. I don't care what kind of surgery you're having. Surgery is very invasive and, you're messing with your body and, it does have an effect when you take out your uterus. That has an effect on your body. When you put testosterone in a biological female, that has an effect on your body. And we're not addressing these long-term health problems that are going to happen to all these young people.
And Shapeshifter and some others said that their sex drive is completely gone. It doesn't work down there anyway. And then the drive has been gone. So it's just, they say I could have just stayed the way I was, but dressed more, present more feminine or whatever. And I would have been
gender nonconforming kids. Remember, like we've always had gender nonconforming. My kid has long hair down to here, right? He's a boy. And people sometimes from behind, he looks like a girl and he'll turn around and go, I'm a boy.
I remember, Buck, because we're the same age, being in grade school, and they'd have the one girl that was like you, probably, the one out there with the boys and very much, but we didn't know anything about gay, nothing back then. And so then when I got grown up, I was like looking at the yearbook or whatever, thinking about things. I'm like, oh, she was a lesbian and nobody knew it, and she didn't know it. Oh, the little Robert was a gay, but he hung out with the girls and he was so pretty and sweet, but he didn't know it. Oh, it kind of dawns on you. Right. Oh, that's what was going on.
That's right. And like some of these kids are probably gay, right? And instead we're telling them they're trans. That's why I don't call these kids trans kids. You're like shoving them into a space at 10. Who has a 10-year-old trans kid? You wingnuts. And then there's a family on YouTube where the guy has 5 trans kids. I'm like, bleh.
And were they all like, they didn't adopt them, right? How does,
No, they're like, I think they're biological kids,
yeah,
but what
yeah.
are the odds of having 5 trans kids? It's
Oh.
impossible.
And
Like,
somebody also on the internet said they knew as months, just the child was only months old.
oh
It's
God.
showing us that it's indicating it's trans. I'm trans.
I'm like, how do you indicate so here's where I'm gonna blow a hole in all of these people. Trans isn't a thing. Trans is not an actual identity. Trans is a medical condition. Transsexualism, whatever you want to call it, transgender. It's an actual medical condition that is there's no way a 3-month-old baby knows it's trans. They're saying that now. They have trans pediatrics. I'm like, you people are nuts. How dare you do that to children? What?
What's the fallout going to be? And we'll see.
It's coming, friend. Well, here's what the fallout is. It's going to affect me. Right? It's going to affect a person who's been doing this for 30 years because they're going to take the medicine all the way. They did it, I think, what state is it? Maybe, I can't remember offhand, Tennessee, maybe. They changed the law up to 25 years old that you cannot start.
You can't, but they can't stop you from getting your testosterone.
No, but all I'm saying, I'm trying to make the point that because now it went from no transitioning kids, right, which I agree with, to now up to the age of 25. That's an adult. Right. So I don't care what an adult does. If you make a mistake, that's your problem. You have Google. I didn't even have Google and I didn't make a mistake. So you need to go to Google and figure out if this is the right thing for you. I have no.
And the brain doesn't really develop until 25, right?
I mean, that's why they're using that.
Yeah, 25 sounds good.
Right.
I mean, it's not up to me, but adult at least, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you know how I look at it like this, if we're going to say the age of adulthood is 18 or 21, then you have to let everyone do whatever they can. If you're going to let them drink or get tattoos or whatever,
you're going to send them to war at 18 to be killed, then they can do.
That's right. So we got to kind of be in that we might not personally agree with it, but if it's going to be the law, then that's the law. But I do not agree that children should transition. And we have a lot of factual information that it isn't a good thing to do and that we should be waiting. Yet the trans community puts out all these lies and deceit around. All the other countries have stopped transitioning children. We're the only one that's ramping it up.
Yeah, we're ramping up a lot of stuff, and the sports. Just let's touch on that.
Well, as a former athlete, as a female, I'm 100% against trans women competing with women. It is ridiculous. The fact that we're even having this conversation does not make me transphobic, and it does not make you transphobic. It's called fairness in sports. And until we can figure it out, just create a trans league. Why don't trans women compete against trans women? Oh, right. How come that's not happening? Because they want to obliterate women's sports. They love being these winners, right? And it's gross. I find it to be disgusting and misogynistic on some level.
Well, I found it heartbreaking to see these women that have worked all their life to train. I mean, I can't even imagine the kind of training that had to take, and then for some guy to come in and take the trophy.
That's right. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. And not only is it pathetic, it hurts me because I know I trained like that. I was a very high ranking, athlete. I know.
What was yours?
1500 meter and 800 meter. I was a runner and I was on like these very big special, like going to the Olympic teams, and we were sponsored by Adidas, and that was in the 70s. And, it was very difficult to be a female athlete. And I didn't graduate high school. So I want to today, if my grades were bad, they would figure out a way sort of maybe to get me into the university. But back in the day, women's sports didn't matter. And so if you had failed, you're just not going to university. But if a dude had F's on his and he was an amazing football player, they'd figure out how to get him into the university.
Yeah, because there's big money in men's sports,
That's right. That's exactly right. And so, I remember fighting for women's sports, right? And now we have dudes. Look, go ahead and transition, my friend. Go ahead and be a woman. No one really cares about that. But what we do care about is coming around and just acting like what you're doing is completely normal and that you're a woman. You're not a woman. You're a trans woman. You're a biological male. It's so stupid that we just can't have these like basic conversations.
Should we bring up Dylan Mulvaney?
Well, Dylan's God, I don't even know what to think about Dylan. I on some level, I'm seeing the toll I'm seeing all of the stuff take a toll on Dylan.
Oh,
And
really?
I can
Because
see it.
he's getting heat from people and the fallout.
Oh,
Okay.
well, he stepped into it, Dylan stepped into that. And I don't know. I mean, of course, I step back and I look at Dylan and I think, why are you doing that? Right? If you were really a trans woman, would you really? Because I have so many trans women friends, tons and tons, and they look like a lady like you. They don't look like me, right? So,
Right.
so that they make an effort. So Dylan, if Dylan was really dealing with gender dysphoria and really dealing with all of this stuff, I can't imagine that he would be doing what they're doing. I just can't imagine. It seems so against everything that we do. And so I really am torn between wondering if this person is actually really a trans person, or are they just raking the cash in?
He sure is getting a lot of deals. It doesn't look like he's on estrogen, does it? The
It's
body,
not.
and it doesn't look
Nope.
like, he lets he's not getting electronic.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And every trans woman will tell you that. I would never go on camera with a 5 o'clock shadow, nor would I shave. He's literally shaving on I'm like, oh no, that person does not have dysphoria, because trans woman would lose it over that, right? It's like when we see pregnant men now, right, who are trans men, who are biological women, but they're like, men can get pregnant. No, they can't. Number one. Number two, that gives me dysphoria. That actually makes me uncomfortable, because that feels very feminine and female to me. I would never want to have a baby. That just goes, but again, go ahead, have a baby, dude. But stop saying men get pregnant. Trans men get pregnant, non-binary people get pregnant, but men do not get
And
pregnant.
in 2023, we're arguing about how, oh no, you can't, biology is real.
Total.
Wait, what?
Wait, what? It's gaslighting.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
everyone hearing this, it's
no, what?
That's right. It makes you second guess yourself. So they're gaslighting us and making us feel like if we say something, we're bad, we're bigots, we're Nazis, we're TERFs, we're trans. You see, because that says to me that they are hiding something. They keep throwing words out. They scare you not to say anything. You can say whatever you want to me. Either I'm going to believe it or I'm not, right? And you're entitled to your opinion. If you always just want to call me a she and you're always going to be a girl, that's okay. If that makes you feel comfortable, I really don't care, because I'm solid in my own space. But I think that these people are not. And that's why they have to keep sort of not only shutting down the conversation, but trying to change the language, that biology is a social construct. What? Right. Biology? We're all biological beings. It's what we are, and we make babies, and we it's so dumb. Well, here we are.
That Jeffrey March, he said on one of his videos, God is trans.
He's disgusting. He's a gaslighter, and he knows exactly what he's doing. And he's playing into it. And you can see he's loving the attention. That's why I keep telling everybody, don't talk about these people. Don't talk about them. Don't do videos. No. Yeah. It's good that you brought it up. But what I'm saying to the outside world,
right?
All these people who make fun of him and keep putting him on their platforms, like, you're just raising his that's right. When you do that, and same with Jeffrey Marsh, they live for it. It doesn't matter. Any PR is good PR.
Because we can say, look in the phone, look what this guy's saying, look what he's doing. Oh my God. And then the next,
that's right.
This keeps going.
And it just keeps perpetuating. And then Dylan's getting more and more famous.
Yeah.
Even though he's more and more hated.
If he wasn't doing that, I mean, he's charming, he's got some, really
funny.
He could really, well, he's an actor, he's
That's
got
right.
a lot of charm and some warmth. I mean, I don't know. It's there's a dichotomy there. It's like really.
I mean, if he would just own up to it and say, I'm just making a mockery of this whole thing, but he's not. And his face, and remember he went into surgery. All he did is get some facial something. He didn't do any, so he could easily go back to living as a dude. You could look at him. He could easily go back tomorrow and be a gay man, and with nothing lost.
Now, before I let you go, what can people do? Because basically why we're here is it's about the children. It's about what's happening because their whole lives will be ruined. There's people who are committing suicide because they made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
They've done this medicalization and they can't take it. And absolutely young people who won't have a life and who won't. And so what can people, that's why I want to talk through, like, what can the average person who's not in this community or really in this, if we want to help in any way or just pray, I don't know. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I know. Well, I really want to say this. I know a lot of people can't speak up. I know that they
I
don't
mean,
want to
I'm
get
kind of nervous
involved.
about speaking up. I don't know what
I
kind of,
know, but you brought me.
yeah,
I'm the one saying it, so it's different because I can say it because I'm the oldest tranny on the block, so I can say whatever I want. But that being said, I know people out there are fearful of getting involved in something that might, whatever. But you got to think about this. If there's any other way you can do it by supporting an organization, there's GenSpec. It's called GENSPECT.org. GenSpec is a great organization. I mean, if you even donate $5 to them or whatever, things like that, or just pushing GenSpec out there. There's
okay.
organization. And if you go to that one, you'll get a bunch of other great
What do they
sites.
do?
So basically, they talk realism and they talk about they put factual stuff on their website. So you can see about puberty blockers. You can see about, doctors that are doing all this stuff. So they're basically the same way I am. They're pro transitioning for adults who get the right so safeguarding, right. And against children transitioning. And they have a lot of parent, links for parents who are struggling with their kids.
Okay.
So I'm just saying to people out there, if you really want, and we need, these kids need us right now. They're being duped into this. So whatever, even just passing that information along to other people who are struggling or parents who are struggling, GenSpec is a great point to start there.
Okay.
And if you don't think what I'm saying is true, you can start there too and start reading more articles on the other side. The problem is people are very one-sided, right? They're very biased. They don't listen. They don't look at both sides are like that. I'm a very middle ground person. You got to look at that space, that news station, and that news station, right? And kind of form a more
and then and feel what feels right in your gut, what feels right to you, and not be influenced by. There's a lot of there's a lot of mind control happening.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Good. Well, Buck Angel, thank you so much for spending this time with me. You are wonderful. And I just much better.
No, thanks so much. I really appreciate you having me on. It really means a lot to me that you see what I'm doing and that you want to push my voice out there, and that hopefully your listeners will understand as well. So it means a lot. Thanks so much for caring.
You're welcome. Much love, everybody.